Hi, welcome to Real Life Experiences with Theodora. Here I share real life day-to-day experiences and I offer insights on how to go by. Today I will be sharing on how parents or how we can better help children cope with divorce. I'll be drawing some lessons from my own journey. My parents separated when I was about 6 years old. I had so many questions, but who to ask? Days that followed my parents' separation, my life flipped. I felt like that covering that I had, that sense of security, the sense of stability that I had, it fell off on that fateful day. It just left me. And the fear I had never experienced crept in. The days that followed the separation, I just felt lost. I felt numb. I just didn't understand what happened. I was completely lost. Even how the days went by, I cannot remember. But then I remember a day when one of my mother's friends, she came to then a new kindergarten that we had started. It was break time and she beckoned from a distance. And I recognized her and I ran to her and she said, "Your mom has sent me to collect you and your siblings." So while I was still talking to her, my sister then joined us while she was carrying our little brother. And we followed her to where our mother was. And that marked the beginning of a new life. We could call it stolen or kidnapped. But then we went with my mother to my maternal grandparents' place, and that's where we stayed. And the following weeks, my dad and his clan people came. They had very long meetings, and after those meetings, I always thought that we would go home. And after the meetings, I would always ask, "Mom, is this the day when we leave?" Because several meetings came. And every time a meeting was held, I always had hopes because when I saw my dad, I was my dad's daughter and I loved him so much. I always ran to him, we hugged, and he always carried me on his lap. I always hoped after the meetings we would go back home and live once again the way life was. One day as I went to school, I came back and my sister was missing. I was so heartbroken. And I was told that day my dad had come by, but he left with my sister. I felt heartbroken that my sister had left me. At first, it just happened with the separation. It felt like my family was falling apart. It seemed like everyone would be going to their directions. For some of us, may have experienced worse with the siblings being separated here and there, or being kidnapped or stolen, in quotes, several times, and others have even been taken and names been changed, taken to very new locations. I had so many questions. I was confused. I did not know how and who to ask. After a while, I hated the meetings. It always kept my hopes up and down. I hated how it made me feel. Then one other fateful day, my mom dressed us up well, and we found ourselves in Bale High Court. I remember the judge asked me, "Whom of your parents would you like to go with today?" As a child, that was the most disturbing question. I had to choose between my mother and my father. But I still had to make a choice anyway. That day I wanted to go with Dad. Because I had missed him a lot, and because also life at my grandparents' place was not as rosy as it was back at home. But in the end, the ruling of the day was we were to stay with our mother until we came of age and decided where we wanted to live. After the ruling, I can never forget the look on my father's face. I knew him as a man who always smiled, who had this gentleness in him. But after the ruling, I saw a man I never knew, I never recognized. I saw a man with a very sad, a face I cannot describe. Then he turned his back. He never said goodbye. He never smiled. That broke my heart and made me question if I really knew him or if I even knew my parents. It was disturbing to come from a place of love to a place of confusion where no clarity or answers are given. And that marked the beginning of a different kind of life for me. That later, shortly, my father passed on and I had to deal with the separation of my parents and the grief of my father that I never had the chance to ask him the many questions I had. For many children going through divorce and separation, as you parents may be going through the traumas that came with the divorce, because different circumstances lead to divorce. I am here not to blame you. I am just here to say, let us help the young ones so that they can have a better life, irrespective of what happened. And I also understand that no one gets into a marriage or a relationship hoping for it to end. Certain circumstances cause the relationship to end. So, few suggestions that I have that you can help your child or children that you may be taking care of to cope with divorce or separation of parents. The first one, explain to the child or children the situation at hand. You may think you're protecting them by withholding information, but we or the children can handle it. Explain to them in the simplest ways possible. I know you are hurting, that I understand, because I have seen it firsthand, looking at my mother then, at the sadness in her eyes, at the pain that she held deep as she tried to get us together. She's an amazing mother and she did a wonderful job. I commend her for that. So as parents, father or mother hurting after a broken relationship, after a divorce or a separation, talk to your children. Explain to them what is going on. You as both parents come together and talk to the children and explain things and give them room to ask questions. And continuously let your children understand and know that you still love them amidst the separation or even after the separation. The second one, as parents, please diplomatically, irrespective of the pains that you're going through, find a way to agree on certain issues concerning your children. For your children's sake, I know you are hurting. That I cannot rule out. But please find grounds to be able to agree on certain things. For instance, where will the children stay? Who will stay with the children? How will we visit the children? In the moments when it's difficult to agree, get a third party to help you set the terms in a friendly and peaceful environment. It does not have to end to court. And you do not have to drag the children in the problems or in the midst of divorce. The moments that I stood in that court, I don't know how they call it, like that wooden box or something, when I was being asked who of my parents should I choose to stay with, that was a very traumatic moment for me. I was so pained that why did I have to be told to choose which of my parents I had to stay with? We don't have to put the children there. We do not have to kidnap and re-kidnap children. We do not have to separate siblings from one another. As parents going through a difficult time, I understand. But please, find grounds that you can agree on certain things for the future of the children. Certain situations like this create anxiety in children, make children have a different perspective about family life. It took me a long time to undo and come to a point to agree that having a family is a beautiful thing. Being married is a beautiful thing. Having to trust. So certain actions may come in a moment of distress, in a moment of frustration, but despite all, try to make a place that can help the children grow in a better way. The third one, maintaining the positive attributes of the other parent. It might be difficult because we are all human, but sometimes the hurt is so much. It could be from an abusive relationship or whichever grounds that led to the divorce or separation. That as a human you feel betrayed, you feel hurt, you feel pained, you feel so many things. That the idea of speaking about the other parent pains you, that only hurt comes out. But for the sake of your children, maintain the positive attributes of the other parent. My mother has been an amazing woman, and she is still an amazing mother. Never ever did she badmouth or blackmail my father in any way. But she always maintained the beautiful things about my dad. And even in difficult moments, she still tried and made sure that we saw our dad. She's an amazing mother. And with that, she has helped me find the balance of having to love a father who was not perfect, to love him with his imperfections and acknowledge that he is my father despite and in spite of. This balance also helped me find my healing. So I request and beg of you parents, however painful it might be, please find a way to maintain positive attributes of the other parent. Please do not transfer the pains and the bitterness to the children. There is a possibility of sharing the truth without having to paint the other person bad. The fourth one, please work on your healing journey. Work on yourself. Find yourself again. Get back on your feet. It is a difficult time, I keep saying. It is hard, it is painful. Emotionally, mentally, and in every way. You may find that you have invested a lot of years, a lot of time in the relationship, and it has come to an end after all your sacrifices. That may leave you feeling betrayed, feeling disappointed, bitter, all other cocktails of emotions. But amidst all that, I beg of you to find healing, to be able to walk through all that is and find yourself. Because if you haven't healed, your pains, your worries, your struggles are going to be translated to the children, are going to be pushed onto the children, consciously or unconsciously, in how you speak to them, in how you parent them, in how you relate with them. You may not be physically abusive, but you may end up being verbally and emotionally abusive. That may affect the mental state or the well-being of the children. So please work on your healing journey. And the healing journey comes in a different way, in different ways. And as you're working on your healing journey, please incorporate it so that the children, or together, you all can walk through the healing journey. Doing certain activities together. For instance, start journaling and give each of your children journals if they're old enough to start journaling their journeys. Encourage them and tell them journaling or writing down your thoughts or emotions or how you're feeling is a good way to find healing. Talk and speak to one another, creating space for you all to express yourselves honestly without judging each other, so that the children know they're in a safe space with you to express what they are feeling, to ask questions, and if you don't have the answers, it's okay. Tell them you do not have it at the moment, But when you do, you communicate to them. Or if you don't, you just be sincere with them. When you're sincere with each other, it aids healing. You can start doing small gardening projects together, going for walks together, trying to get things that you can do together that can actively help you cope, so that the child doesn't isolate. And when the child is in isolation, that's when certain bad habits start developing. Addictions start developing. So make sure as you're walking through your healing journey, get the children involved and you can heal together, if possible. The fifth one, work on creating new memories. Previous life maybe was beautiful, maybe was not. But encourage the children and tell them that the life that we had was a chapter, but this is a new chapter that we have. It's okay to always start over. It's okay to always adapt. It doesn't mean that life has ended. It's a new start. It's a beautiful beginning. It's a beautiful continuation in the journey of life. That even with the parents separating, beautiful and new memories can be created. And that's why it is important to constantly remind and show your children that you love them, from both parents if possible. Remind them and show them that you love them. Though I have incorporated all this, communication is key. Create a safe space intentionally that you have to talk to your children, that you have to listen to them. It is a lot of work, but that will help them in their healing. And that will also save you a lot of pains. Because divorce or parents separating has a lot of effects on the children. That if you do not have an open and safe space that you can clearly talk to the children and answer their questions and give guidance where possible, you're in for a really bloody ride. Big one. So, to avoid that, create a space that you can talk to the children, that they can talk to you and you can talk to them, that amidst all, together you stand. Some of the effects of divorce on children can translate into others being drug addicts, maybe the teens, teenage pregnancies, other criminal activities, anger or emotional and behavior problems, depression, and others can even be suicidal. So it is important that you create the space to talk to the children, to express themselves, and you too talk to them. I thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Please feel free to share how you are coping, how you're helping children or your children cope with divorce or separation, or share your experiences. I would love to know more. Thank you for joining me today. I hope to see you next week. Have a wonderful week.